The idea of moonlighting, which can potentially lead to a conflict of interest, is not expressly mentioned in the church manual. Instead, it is a stipulation written in the contract between the pastor and the conference. In pastoral ministry, moonlighting refers to any work on the side preventing a pastor from fulfilling his ministerial responsibilities while receiving conference pay. These competing interests often lead to a conflict of interest. Even average leaders tend to avoid conflicts of interest and mitigate risks, which is a typical organizational intervention. So, what are the acceptable and non-acceptable parameters of moonlighting? Based on the hiring contract, it is apparent that an employed pastor is prohibited from having a second job, which is understandable. However, the definition of a pastor conducting a personal ministry shows a nuanced understanding of what is deemed moonlighting, which is discretionary. In other words, based on the contract, having a personal ministry is not a clear-cut violation like sexual assault and stealing money from the church. It requires an exhaustive evaluation of a case to see whether the individual violates the agreement. In any case, the outcome is left to the personal judgment of the decision-makers or the executive committee. Nevertheless, due to the nuanced understanding of moonlighting, the conference has a burden to inform the church members about the causal factors influencing the termination of Pastor Johnson Cesar. They must also explain the case's uniqueness and why it differs from similar cases. For instance, several employed pastors also work as chaplains in hospitals and clinics for financial gain. Others work as seasoned evangelists who expect compensation in exchange for their work. Some pastors even drive for Uber or Lyft during the week to make extra money. Inflation is no joke. It is essential to understand that the apparent uproar is not necessarily indicative of blind loyalty to Pastor Cesar or an indictment of conference leaders. It is, instead, a manifestation of deep-seated frustration for the persistent lack of communication, transparency, and due diligence. The Haitian Adventist community deserves to know how and why certain decisions are made. Mitigating the situation by providing pertinent information conducive to reconciling the differences is critical. Otherwise, thousands of members will eventually leave the Southeastern Conference and send their tithes elsewhere.